I'm joined now by photographer Rolly Navarro. Rolly, welcome. Thank
Hi.
you for being here.
Yeah.
I love your work. It's so cool. But I want to know about the first time you picked up a camera.
I think the first time I picked up a camera was probably 8th grade, but I've always grown up with photography. My mom was a photographer when I was younger, so I've kind of always grown up around that atmosphere and stuff. Um,
Were you interested in her work? Were you intrigued in a
mhm.
way that you thought, oh, maybe that could be an outlet for me? Or was it just sort of part of your surroundings?
I don't think I really found it too interesting when I was younger and stuff, just because I was little, and she would always use me for like little photo projects or something for her school. And no, I really didn't find it too interesting until I was like in 6th grade and wanted to become a director. And then I became interested in doing directing, and then it kind of became an outlet for me to be like, oh, maybe photography.
Yeah.
And then kind of just picking up a bunch of other things like screenwriting and all that.
So when you picked up a camera in 8th grade, I'm assuming it was a digital camera?
It was my phone camera actually.
Oh,
And so
wow.
I would
Okay.
just use my iPhone camera, and then I ended
Oh,
up.
you're such a baby.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love that that was your first camera.
Mhm.
Was it, did it feel right away like, oh yeah, okay, I'm good at this?
It wasn't really good. It was just more like it was kind of just fun to do. And then freshman year, somebody was like, "Hey, can you take pictures for me?" And I'm like, I really don't have a good camera." And then my mom's like, "You can use my camera." And then it just became bigger than, and it just became something more than I
Yeah.
thought it would be.
Okay, tell me about the learning process. Were you learning kind of the logistics from your mom? Were you learning at school? Were you learning on YouTube? Like, how were you picking up techniques?
Yeah, just a lot of YouTube, just like a lot of self-teaching and making sure I would get critiques from my mom and stuff, but it was a lot of just being like, does this look right? Is it supposed to be this way? And if it wasn't, I mean, I would just keep trying to progress at it and stuff. And yeah, YouTube was definitely a big help and stuff. Like all the photography YouTubers like Peter McKinnon, Northern Borders. Yeah, I would definitely watch them a lot because it was like they gave good advice that was quick, and I have ADHD, so it was like I couldn't pay attention for a long time,
Yeah.
but it would just be like, okay, okay, and then I would just try to do it on my own, and if I couldn't do it, I would keep trying to do it.
Yeah. Okay, so in looking at your work, I feel like I see a lot of playing with light and filters and that kind of thing. What do you, if you had to describe your aesthetic, what would it be?
I'd probably go for it's probably like an editorial or moody kind of look, just to kind
Yeah.
of give it the way I'm trying to make my photography look now is kind of comic booky, because grew up with like a lot of like superheroes and like comics and like
Yeah.
DC and all this. And I don't know, I think I'm trying to make it comic booky, but I think it's kind of in that like atmosphere already, and just kind of having like those like super like poppy colors and like poppy shadows and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So I was noticing lots of like saturation and yeah, the shadows and the light and lots of faces.
Yeah.
I love the photographs of different faces. You really capture something cool.
Yeah.
So how do you feel like, I read that you've only been doing photography for what, 3 years?
Yeah, 3 years, yeah.
How has your photography evolved over the last 3 years of doing it professionally?
I think it's evolved by just me understanding the fundamentals of like business side of photography, and just the fundamentals of lighting and posing and all the other components that go into like taking a good picture.
Let's talk about mental health. I read that your photography is an outlet for you, and a way to express your thoughts and feelings regarding mental health. How does that work? How are you using photography in a way that's beneficial?
I think for me, photography, like art in general, has been always a way for me to push my mental express my mental health in a like healthy way, instead of a lot of other ways people do and stuff. And I think it's just a way for me to deal with depression and anxiety and stuff. And it, like with ADHD, obviously, and my anxieties and stuff, it's a way for me to just focus on the one thing that's at hand. And then I can, because I do a lot better with my anxiety. Like I deal with it a lot better when I've kind of taken a second to do something else, and I can address it with a more logical sense instead of an emotional sense. I think also with like my mental health, it's like expressing colors, like putting the colors I'm feeling into my pictures and just putting like, I don't know, it's a lot of random stuff, but it's
No,
just
I
kind of,
love that. Tell me more about the colors. So if you are feeling a certain way, if you're feeling anxious, is there a color that always comes to mind for you, or is there does it just depend on the situation?
Probably like a blue. I don't know. Blue's kind of like, I don't know. I'm not sure why blue's kind of.
Okay, you're having an anxious moment. Blue is coming to mind. How do you then execute a cool photograph or series of photographs with that blue at the forefront?
Yeah.
Like logistically, how do you do that?
I don't know. I think when I'm anxious, I don't know. Sometimes I'll also just feel the emotion out and stuff, and then be like, okay, wait, maybe I can actually make something cool out of what I was like thinking about.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my anxiety also comes from overthinking and stuff, and it goes into like this like spiral of like thinking of one thing, going to another thing, and keep going, and like it's just like an ever going cycle of just a lot of random thoughts, and I think a lot of my random thoughts I can put into my own pictures and stuff. When people say separate the artist from the art, it's like I am my art.
Yes.
Because it's how I am and it's me that are in like those pictures, like, and how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
It may not be me as like the person in the photo, but it'll be me as the colors and the composition and the shadows, because it's just how I'm seeing something in my head. And it's like instead of like in my anxiety and stuff and overthinking, I imagine like images, and it's like it's not like, it may not be like images, like images, but it's almost like an abstract like drawing and stuff. And it's
Yeah.
just, I kind of just imagine like random patterns and stuff, and I
When
just
you-
incorporate that.
When you imagine those random patterns and that kind of thing, and then you start taking pictures, do you know when you got it? Can you take a photo and go, okay, yes, that's it. That's
Yeah.
that's what was kind of in my head, and it's all come to fruition in this photograph.
I think it's a little bit of like, I think yes and no. Sometimes it's like, sometimes I can't get what I'm imagining, but sometimes I will just get like those like oh yeah, I got it, I finally got it. But
Yeah.
it's like, I think I'm always seeking to kind of get that like perfect, like what I was thinking in my head, and then what I'm trying to make and stuff.
I imagine that can be really frustrating.
Yeah, and it can be, but I think over time I've learned to like accept I'm not gonna be able to get every like good like image and stuff.
Right.
But I think now it's like I'm definitely getting to the point where I'm like, okay, I can actually kind of get close to what I was thinking and stuff.
Yeah.
Because obviously, as like if you're thinking of an abstract like image or drawing or painting in your head, it's like you're not gonna get the exact thing and make it in the real world and stuff.
Sure, yeah, it won't be literal, but you can at least get that feeling that you were after.
Yeah.
So what's next? What do you hope to continue to learn, or what do you hope that people take away from your work?
I think what's next is kind of definitely pushing my capabilities and making it a lot more, and well, not like by a lot more, I think making my pictures a lot better and improving my skills, because eventually I would like to work in like magazines, or like just doing a lot of editorial work, because that's pretty much all my work is and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I want people to take away from my like images that they're like cool images, and they also have a lot of like components. And I think I want to I just want people to recognize the emotions and stuff and that go
Yeah.
behind the photos.
When I look at your photos, I want to know more. there's a depth there that you go, okay, I see what this image is on the surface, but I know there's more to it, and I'm interested to know more.
Yeah.
What do you think art and your art in particular has taught you about yourself?
Seeing the beauty in like the world and stuff. I think especially with street photography, it's like you gotta see the beauty in this, like every little detail and stuff, and you gotta seek out like or look for the small like beautiful things and stuff. And like anxiety definitely sucks, but it can also be beautiful. And like I think looking at people like through street photography, it's like you're seeing the beauty in people, and you're seeing the beauty in like a fire hydrant or a piece of paper on the ground. Like you don't just see a person walking, you see them like in an emotional state, you see them trying to do something, they have a purpose. And it's like if there's a little piece of paper on the ground and they're like the sun's hitting it perfectly, it's like you don't just see a piece of paper, you see the shadows and the composition and the texture of the paper and everything, you know?
Yeah. Rolly, the conversation about mental health is so important, and I think that when you describe your work that way, it's so beautiful because you're right. It's hard to navigate emotions and the world, but if you can really see the beauty in everyday mundane things, I mean, that's the secret, right? That's the goal. So thank you for your work and for putting it that way, because it really does reframe things. So hopefully we all can start looking at the world through that lens.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Arts in Focus on PBS Fort Wayne is funded in part by